Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. For today's workshop we're going to do an ATC with the theme It's Raining Cats and Dogs. And I have a nice little black and white illustration here of a dog holding an umbrella for a kitty cat. And you can search these images on the internet. I get a lot of my stuff from Dover Publications, and because they're royalty free and legally you can make copies of them to use them for your artwork and stuff. So you can check them out, Dover Publications. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to prepare the ATC with some old book paper. We're going to do an image transfer of this, so we're actually just not going to collage it, we're actually going to do it in reverse, rub the paper so the image gets transferred onto here. For the paints, I'm using two different lines of paint, same company. I'm using Deco Art paint products, and I'm using the Traditions for the color, but I also have some Americana Green Mist, which is a really pretty soft green. This is very close to chrome green hue, which I'm almost out of. So this is why I'm using this one here. The colors that I have are, opaque white, which is Traditions, Green Mist, which is Americana, and the rest are Traditions, Sapphire Blue, Brown Madder, Naphthalus Hue, and Transparent Yellow Iron Oxide. I've got some deco page which I'm going to use to glue the book page and for the image transfer. I've got some Paper Effects Clear Transparent to simulate raindrops. Brushes, I have a number 8 Bristle Bright. I've got an old Gunji number 8 round, which I use to apply the deco page, a number 12 shader, a number 0 round, and I'm missing another brush. Oopsie, sorry. And a number 4 round. Okay. Palette knife we're not going to need. I've got stencils. These stencils are for glass, but I use them on paper as well because they're nice and sticky. And this is the Safari line, and I'm going to be using this one here, which looks like a tiger print. Okay. Scissors to cut out an image if you want. I'm painting on a Ranger mat because it's no stick. First thing we're going to do is work with gesso. Now, the paper I'm working on is 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper, is Arches. It's fine the way it is, but because it's raw watercolor paper, because we're gluing this, then we're going to do an image transfer, all that's going to soak into the paper. It's going to take a little bit longer to dry. So what I like to do is prep the paper with some gesso. Not only will it make it stronger, it'll create a barrier between your mediums and the paper, so it'll dry faster. What I like to do with these, I like to prepare a whole bunch of these ahead of time. I don't do these one at a time. So I'll take like 20 of these, I'll gesso them all, and then glue all the book pages on and stuff like that. So I'll put that aside because I already have this one done. Okay, that'll make it nice and strong. Now, to glue the book paper on, there is some drying time involved with this. I was able to do one today. The drying time was only 20 minutes. So I'm just going to take some, not drying time for this, a drying time for the image transfer. So I'm going to put this over the whole thing. I like working the stuff out of the lid because it tends to stick. And then which side of the book page do I want? It doesn't really matter. It's whatever side you want facing out. Whatever side I should say. I'm just going to put some deco page on here as well. All the way to the edge because I want to make sure it's fused. Okay. And just lay it down. You'll have some time to move it around. Make sure it's completely fused to the very, very end. If this was really, really thin stock, this stuff here, you could take the book page if it was a bit bigger and actually fold it over, which would make your card much stronger. Your ATC has to be 2.5 by 3.5 inches, and you really should make it a thick stock, like cereal boxes or pizza boxes, or a couple of pieces of, you know, thin cardstock together. You need to make it nice and thick because people are going to be handling this. The last thing you want to do is give away or trade a piece of, you know, a piece of your art, because that's what this is miniature art, and it'd be really, really flimsy. Okay. Right to the very edge. Okay. Beautiful. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another layer right on top of here. That's going to go right through, which is going to make it even stronger. I like using the gloss for these. Love using the gloss for these. Good amount. Okay. Then we're going to take the image, and I didn't trim the image this time because I want the whole piece there. And I know from the edges where it is. You can trim the paper first, but I know where the actual edges are. What you want to do now is burnish this to the book page. Do not get any medium on your paper because it won't come off. You might be able to get it off, but it's going to ruin your piece. I'm actually going to get, I love using these, the Royal Aquilon brushes. They have a flat end and they're perfect for this. When I do large image transfers, I use a brayer. But a brayer is like this wide. So you just kind of spewed out there. Now if you are interested in ATCs, I've got some videos on my blog, tons of free videos on how to prepare ATCs and stuff like that. I've got some other ATC projects, how to make books to hold them. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to let this sit for about 20 minutes to dry. Then we come back, I'll show you how to rub this off, and as well I'll trim this outside edge. Okay, just going to trim that. And I'm showing everything in here. I'm not editing out my happy accidents or anything. If you're more advanced, just fast forward through the video. I would prefer covering more information than necessary for beginners and people who are learning. Okay, so now this is where the fun happens. Now, with one thing you have to keep in mind when you're doing an image transfer, the result is always different. Okay, because it depends on how much pressure you're putting, how much water, how much rubbing, etc., etc., etc. Now, I'm going to get myself a kitchen wipe. Not so much to clean, but it'll help just kind of pick up little pieces. So I let this dry about 20 minutes. If you're not sure, the safest bet, because the drying time is different depending on the mediums that you use, because you can also do this with gesso, the decoupage, acrylic paint, anything. Let it sit overnight. You'll never go wrong. I'm just going to take a Mr. bottle and I'm just going to spray that. Okay. And I'm going to start rubbing. Dip your finger in water and rub. And all you're doing is removing the top layer of paper. Do this very slowly. And as you start rubbing, if you find like this, I'm having a hard time pushing this one off. It does come off. It's because I had a little bit of decoupage on top. Okay. Now when you're doing this, avoid rubbing too hard, otherwise you'll actually take the ink transfer off as well. I used to do these with toner prints because I didn't know it could be done any other way. This is just with an inkjet print on a Epson printer, good Epson printer, and I'm using no name ink, like the non-branded ink on this. There we go. Rub, rub, rub. I'm just going to rub a little bit more. So the more you rub, the more that will come off. You just have to be really, really careful that you don't take too much paper off. The edge I really want to rub down. Because as I trimmed it, there was some decoupage stuck there. We're going to be putting some paint on this, so you don't need to worry. And when you actually, when it dries and it kind of looks fuzzy a little bit from some of the paper that hasn't come off, if you put some glossy medium on there, and it disappears. Now I'm doing this because my fingers are getting really, really sore. Just using a kitchen wipe for this part. Don't use any harsh cleaners or anything in your water when doing this. It's just pure water because you don't want to dissolve the ink. There we go. Now I'm just going to wipe that off. Simple images are best for these types of transfers because I can't get inside here where the inside like the doggy's pants and stuff like that, but that's okay. If you want perfectly clean transfers, you could go to Lasertran, which is very expensive, but that'll work as well. Okay, now we're just going to prep this. I'm going to put a layer of decoupage on top of it again. This will just seal it and give it some extra protection. And now when I do this, I'm going to go right to the very outside edge, including the edges here. We did an awful lot of rubbing, so I want to make sure that everything's nice and strong. See, if this was just really chintzy paper, we wouldn't have been able to do all this. It would have fallen apart. And I like my brush strokes showing on my ATCs because it makes them look like they're handmade and not mass-produced. ATCs are not to be sold, they're only to be given away. So it's even more important that they look like they're handmade. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit now to dry. I'm going to let this sit for probably about a half an hour. And then when we come back, we'll start adding some colors. We're not going to make this into a formal painting, but we're going to add some colors in here to tone her little dress and his pants. And we're going to stencil. We're going to stencil right over this. Then we're going to wipe it out, and that's where the decoupage is going to be a resist. So we'll be able to wipe out some of the stencil. So very, very. All the hard work is done. Now it's a matter of just making it pretty. It's relatively dry now. It's a little bit tacky on the edges, which is fine. We're not going to be worried about that. I'm going to take a small brush, number 0, round, and I'm going to take a little bit of transparent yellow iron oxide, and I'm going to take some blending medium with that. I want this to be extremely thin. I want this to be just a glaze of color. And I'm just going to go over the kitty cat's dress. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Okay. And I also could go over the face it's a kitty cat. And a little bit of naphthol red. Just a little bit. She's got a nice pretty red bow here. Transparent colors. We don't want anything too bright. Okay. A little bit more transparent yellow iron oxide for her tail. And her feet. These are so small. Okay, the doggy, same thing. Transparent yellow iron oxide. Just to add a hint of color. Okay. And his coat, I'm going to make it the brown madder. Now you'll need to make sure you've got lots of water or blending medium in this because this is a very, very vibrant color. You can make these colors anything you want. I'm going to make a matching suit. His pants I'm going to make red as well. Okay, and I'm going to take a little bit of the brown madder in with a little bit of the green, which will make a dark color. I actually should get some black out. Put a bit of blue in there. I just want something dark. Just for the line where his glasses are. Okay. And I'm going to leave the umbrella transparent. I'm going to take a little bit more red. I'm going to put on her belt. And just, the transparent yellow iron oxide is dried now, so I'm just going to glaze the naphthol over, and it turns a little bit more orange. Not terribly orange, but because it's transparent, the yellow is showing through. It's actually quite pretty. There we go. Okay, so just added just a little bit of color to these. All right. Now, I'm going to take my flat brush, a little bit of the green mist, and just kind of set it in the ground like so. Okay, just a little bit like this. I'm going to take a Q-tip and just fade that out. The green mist is really nice for this. You want the book pages, the words to still be visible. And then you can turn around with the stencil. You don't have to. The umbrella is facing this way, so I could, because they've got different, like this one here, they look like they're pointing up, and this one, the leopard things look like they're pointing down. So I'm just going to put this on here. And this is with the sapphire blue, but I'm really going to get a lot of it out. Just on the outside edge. I can see right through the stencil, so I don't have to worry about covering the cat. It's just to make it look like there's a little bit of rain going on. Okay, I'm just going to fade that out. That's already dry. There we go. And then, that stencil I'm going to throw in some water. To finish this off, I'm going to take some paper effects without the writing tip, and I'm just going to add little dots everywhere to make it look like it's raining. Not over the kitty cat and the doggy though. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. It's transparent. Hit that to send the paper effects back down. And I have a cutout, Raining Cats and Dogs. I just printed this on my printer. Now I show you something really cool. Whatever paint you have in here, you want to add a lot of water. Okay, a lot of water. And then what we're going to do, assuming this is dry, you can use double-sided tape, but I'm going to use decoupage because it just makes, when you use decoupage, it just makes everything really strong. And I'm just going to put decoupage on the bottom. Okay. Doesn't matter the finish. Now this cutout here, I cut it pretty close. Okay, it doesn't have to be even. I'm going to dip it right into the watery paint and then lift it right back out. I've got microscopic little tweezers I could have used for that too. And what it does is it makes it look like it's like a watercolor. But it has to be really watery. Your paint can't be opaque. Just lay it down. Okay, and then go right back over with that same brush to seal it in. That's it. This little ATC, basic ATC is finished, and once these are dry, you can actually do a little bit more painting. I'm going to show you another ATC that I did in a previous video with a similar technique. Okay, so I've got the little, let's see if I can get a nice angle. So you can see this is covered with a gloss finish, is sealed. Okay, and then I've got the paper effects there, transparent, so it's nice and dimensional. And I've got a label. This one says Under the Rain. And this I'm going to let dry overnight before putting it away, and then I'm going to just do the edges. And the edges, how they can be done, if you have like a distress pad, like an ink pad, put a little cosmetic sponge in it, and then you can just do this on the edges. It gets rid of the white paper. You could do this with a crayon. You could do this with you could do this with paint as well, because it'll seal the edges. It takes a little bit longer though. Okay, and once this is dry, I'll do the same thing. It just gets rid of that white edge. But there we go. So this I'll let sit. I'll let dry. You'll know it's dry when the paper effects, the transparent paper effects, it becomes like glass, like this one here. This one looks like glass. You can feel it. Okay, and it just looks like water droplets. So once that's dry, let it sit for about 24 hours. Then I can put it into my ATC book, ready to be given out to somebody. I'll also put a label on the back. I have these my own custom label. I don't mean label like sticky label, but it's just printed on cardstock that I'll just put a double-sided tape on here, which has it says ATC in a real distressed font, and it has my name, my email address, the name of the card, the series. Like if I've made 2 of these, I'll put one of two, and if it's part of a swap, I'll put the swap name. And that's it. It's ready to go. So this was a real quick and easy little ATC. Nice and different. Very simple. Great for kids to do if they have the patience to rub off the image. So hope you like it. And until next time, stay inspired.